thank you for joining us on this Friday morning to the Chamber's first virtual networking event, Best Practices, New Ways to Conduct Business During Uncertain Times, brought to you by the North Business Council. We are pleased to have two distinguished industry experts join us today, Carlton Robinson and Stephen Hudson. Carlton Robinson is the Vice President of Entrepreneurial Growth for the Jax Chamber. He runs the very successful Jax Bridges program that accelerates entrepreneurial growth. Additionally, many of you know Carlton as a great friend to the St. Johns County Chamber, as he has assisted in the launch of our program, The Pitch Factory, 2 years ago. This program continues to address the needs of entrepreneurs in St. Johns County, and there have been many success stories of small businesses and startups in our county who have grown because of their participation in either Jax Bridges or The Pitch Factory. Stephen Hudson is the co-founder and president of Digital Mark Company, LLC. The company focuses on providing quality SEO services and digital marketing consulting for business owners in all industries to increase their bottom line. Stephen has his master's degree in internet marketing, serves as a member of the Florida Bar Association's 4th Judicial Circuit Grievance Council A, is chairman of the North Business Council, and serves on the board of directors for the St. Johns County Chamber of Commerce. Without further delay, I would like to introduce to you our moderator, Carlton Robinson.
As a Chamber of Commerce, we have a role to make sure we're a trusted source for all of the small business owners and entrepreneurs. And so during this time of adversity, we're really focused on making sure we're getting out, timely information, but also credible information for you. So I'll let Stephen also do a brief introduction on how we got here. I think that's important. And then we can start with our first activity. Stephen? You're muted, Stephen.
Sorry. Well, Andrea, you have to unmute me then, because okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. Last week, we had put together, Carlton and I approached Carlton about, I'm the Small Business Leader of the Year for the Jax Chamber, for the Jax Chambers, one of the councils. And we were, Carlton and I arranged a kind of a small webinar to talk about how we as individual councils are dealing with these problems that we're facing right now. And so I asked Carlton if he would be willing to do the same thing for our St. Johns County businesses, and he's good friends with Greg Voss and has done a lot for the chamber. And so he jumped at the chance, and I really want to thank him for being here to do this with us. And I'm excited to do this. I'm getting a lot of questions. My phone's ringing off the hook just because of the industry that I'm in. A lot of people have questions about how they can improve or increase their digital presence out there. And the things I'm going to share today are all free things that you can do on your own at home with this extra time that you're finding that you have. That once businesses start recovering and we're back in the swing of things, you'll be better positioned to start capitalizing on everybody getting back to work. So that's the whole purpose of this, is to try to help you as an individual business owner share some ideas and think of some things, ways you can be innovative in coming out of this.
Good. Thanks, Stephen. So the first thing that we'd like to do is if we could have everyone go into the chat and just state your name of your business, and a quick bullet. So we don't have a lot of time, so it can't be a full sentence. But what's the one thing that's been the most challenging for you, during this period of uncertainty? For some of us, it's been customers, it's been inventory. So if you could just share that quickly in the chat, and then as we're seeing some of those, Stephen and I can kind of share with you information that we've actually come across in speaking with other small business owners. So if you could actually go in the chat, Stephen and I will start. We had a really good call yesterday with all the small business leaders of the year. And one of the things that I posed to each of them is to kind of share how they were overcoming challenges. Stephen, what would you say was your biggest takeaway from that call yesterday? And I think we had 10 or 11 small business leaders. What would you say your
actually,
biggest
I think there was
takeaway?
13 of us on the call, so that was great. Really, the overall, the thing I took away the most of it was optimism. That, you know, this is not a permanent thing, and that while that there is resources and help out there, and that people are ready to get back to work. They're ready to start. And like I said, the feeling was just that I took away from it, which was really encouraging for me. It was just optimism, and that. And they were sharing some innovative ideas that we'll share. Carlton will share with you today, but just some ways that they're adapting to this new way of doing business. I think this we were already moving towards a much more digital presence for businesses. You know, people were starting to get used to the idea that you had to have a digital presence as a company. But now this situation has kind of accelerated that what would have been an organic movement towards that. This is kind of hyper, it's really pushed us towards it much faster than I think we would have organically.
Right. And as I'm looking at some of the comments, you know, one theme that I see is, you know, our inability to do our core work because we depended so much on face-to-face and, you know, interaction. So that's a big challenge, especially for us, even in the Chamber of Commerce environment. I mean, that's what we do. We bring people together. So we share that sentiment with some of you. A couple of the other comments are around the speed of work. And so these are all, I mean, really good. And what I like about, you know, at least the Zoom format is if we use it the right way, you know, all of the participants can kind of see in the chat, you know, what others are experiencing. So we know that we're not alone. I think that's, you know, one of the big things I hope everyone takes away from our time together today. We've got to find innovative ways to stay together as business owners. And listen. We've got to become better listeners because, you know, right now we need that confirmation that we're doing the right thing and that there is optimism. And the more we talk with other business owners, we see we're facing similar challenges, but we can share how we're overcoming those. So Stephen and I are going to open up. Stephen has a brief presentation that he's going to share with you. And then after Stephen shares his, I have some tips, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A. And, you know, with the Q&A, we'll talk through, and then we'll also, you know, have you post some of those in the chat. So I'll turn that over to Stephen now.
All right, thank you. Basically, I put together some information that hopefully will help you understand how the data ecosystem of the internet uses the information about your business to present to your prospects, to your consumers, when they're searching for your products and the services that you offer. And so I've put together this little presentation to just kind of help you understand how it works. And so I'm going to leave you with with 3 actionable steps that you can do to help improve your digital presence online. And all of it's free. I mean, it's just things that you can do yourself that can help you. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen, and then one second here. All right. Now, with the rise of artificial intelligence services like Alexa and Siri and Google Assistant, the world's shifting from browsing to asking. Now, can everybody see? I mean, can you see my screen, Carlton?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, my 3-year-old doesn't know how to read or write, but he does know how to ask Siri for his favorite TV shows, and Siri will serve them up to him. And so we're definitely moving towards that. It's searches in front of us at all times. From the cars that we drive to the watches and sunglasses that we wear, and it's important for business owners to know what information these services are providing about their company, and how that information is gathered. First thing I want to talk to you about is how Siri's, voice search services like Siri and Alexa use how they can provide answers regarding your business. Now, the way these systems are structured, the first part is what's called the user interface. This is what your interaction with these companies. It's basically what you say and then their response. Okay, that's that user interface. Now, the second part of it is the artificial intelligence. This is the actual technology that processes your questions and organizes them, and organizes the data into an answer that you can act on and use. All right. So now the third part, and the part that involves us as companies and business owners, is what's called the knowledge graph. Okay. Now, the knowledge graph is like a brain-like database that stores everything about everything that companies like Google, Apple, and Amazon know about the world, including what they know about your business. You can't control the services like Alexa or Siri's user interface or their AI, but you can control what these services know and say about your business by ensuring that the information is correct and consistent across the internet's data ecosystem. Okay. Now, when I'm talking about a data ecosystem, every map, app, business listing, and search engine has its own knowledge graph that it uses, and is constantly building and adding to of information regarding your business. Google's knowledge graph alone stores about 70 billion facts that it knows about the world. And as you can see, I mean, all these maps, apps, and business listings and search engines are all talking and reaching out to each other to verify data with each other. Now, what is the Internet's data ecosystem? Okay, most people think, well, it's a common conception that the only thing that the internet knows about your business is maybe what's in your Google My Business page and what's on your internet. But all these services, what they're doing is they're harvesting data from all these different sources. Okay, it's kind of spooky how intimate they can learn the intimate details they can find out about your company and everything about you. But what happens is, now one of the most important things to know about this data ecosystem is that it's all these individual services look at each other to confirm that accuracy of the data. They're looking at each other, and they're all compiling from all these sources. And so it's all just kind of this big, big web, I guess is to have a good way to say it is, this is how they're getting all their information. Now, voice search in particular uses what's called structured data to provide structured answer. answers. So, before, you would type in a keyword like plumber, Jacksonville, Florida, and Google would, or the search engine would provide you with 10 results, right? Well, now we're moving into the world of AI. It's totally different now. You'll say, Alexa, where's the nearest pharmacy that's open 24 hours? Okay, so they're going to have to search their knowledge graph of information about businesses, about the pharmacies that are close to your area, and have to know what the hours are and that kind of stuff. And so when you're looking at how these search engines break down your question, you can see that they're going to have to know a lot of information about you to be able to provide you as one of their, to basically serve you up as the result to the question that's being asked. And so that's the reason why it's really important that your information is not only accurate, but you're putting as much information out there about yourself as you can. Now, one of the things that you can use to, and right now, basically, I just want to go into some of the actionable items that you can do yourself to make sure that you're in the best position, not only to kind of clean up your digital presence out there, but also make sure that when somebody asks Alexa or Siri, what's the nearest blah that does this service, that your business is presented. Okay, so the first thing I would recommend is you need to check your Google My Business page. Okay, your Google My Business listing. Now, there's a lot of categories that people, I would say 70% of the Google business listings that I get when I start working with the client and I get in there and look at their business, Google My Business listing, it's just partially filled out. They have their name, address, phone number, and maybe a link to their website. But there's so much more information that Google is allowing you to present about your business that people just don't fill it out. So one thing that I would really encourage you to do is to take a look at your Google My Business page and all the different categories that you can fill information in. Like this right here, there is I'm pretty sure there's a category that lets you know what languages that you offer. And so, in this question, it says, who speaks Spanish? The only way these services are going to know that is if you're pushing out that data to the ecosystem, as it were. Okay, so the next thing, number 2, is make sure that all the information about your business is correct on your social media, like your Facebook page. A lot of times, especially if you're a brick and mortar, you need to make sure that your name, address, and phone number are correct. A lot of people don't even have their name, address, and phone number on there, but if it is on there, make sure that it's correct. And that it matches what your Google My Business page says. Okay, if it has street spelled out, then spell it out. If it has ST, then put ST. You want everything to look exactly the same. All your data to be consistent. And so through all your social medias, make sure that the information about your company is correct. And also make sure you have a link to your website on all your social medias. Okay, it's incredibly important. Okay, and the third thing that you can do is check out your website. This is a good time to look at your website and make sure that the information, the contact information on your website is correct and updated. And again, everything should be anchored off your Google My Business page. Whatever you have in that as a name, address, phone number, website, all the information there should be very consistent across the board, especially on your website. You're going to want to make sure that your name, address, and phone number, if you're brick and mortar, like I said, is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And so that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk to you about. And now one thing I did want to tell you is that my company, and this is something I'm going to share with everybody. I'm going to share a link to. My company uses a proprietary software that we use to build knowledge graphs for our clients. And one of the tools in this software is the ability to just to check to see how your information is being presented out to the data ecosystem. Basically, to see if your information is consistent across your social media, your search engines, and that kind of stuff. And so the link, all you have to do is type in the name of your business, your address, and a phone number. That's it. You just type it in there, and it's going to spit out it's going to give you a report that shows you how what information each one of these services has on you. And a lot of people are going to be surprised at how inconsistent it is. Some of these services will have an old address that you once had, or an old phone number, or a wrong name. It's going to be pretty revealing for a lot of people, I think. And so, and again, it's just, I'll send the link out. You just click on it, put in your name, address, and phone number, and it'll show you, it'll help you guide, to direct you in some areas that you can help start cleaning up your data out there. And again, I mean, it's all free, nothing, all this is free. So, and that's really all I have. I will send out a link, or maybe I'll drop the link in the chat, but then I'll also make sure that Andrea sends out the link to everybody that's on this session, so you guys can have it and check your businesses. Okay, that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. And I can tell you, when we went through this for the chamber, Stephen, put the address in there. Pretty alarming that we were not consistent in all of the listings. We had different phone numbers. And so this is something that I think all of us could use and to be extremely valuable. And it was interesting, the number of sources that were being checked. I thought that there would only be maybe 4 or 5. And how many are there, Stephen? You're on mute.
There's probably I think there's 40, maybe 40 that it looks at, but that's just a sample of the hundreds that are out there. But it does give you an idea of whether or not you're putting out good data or not, because they're all sharing with each other. So.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share some of the information that we have in our Jax Bridges sessions. Before I do that, there's 2 things that I want to also share with you. So I lived in St. Johns County for my daughter's senior year because she played basketball at Nice. And during that time, that's when I did a little bit more work with the St. John's Chamber. And I kind of got to see the community from a different perspective outside of just St. Augustine. So it gives me a little bit better insight for, the difference between Jacksonville and St. John's and the St. Augustine area. So I just wanted to share that with you. And then some of the tips that I'll share, number one, so 5 things that I want to leave you with, and I'm, willing to send these slides over to Andrea as well, Andrea. So right now, as I took a look at the questions, lots of us are asking things that are related to our business. And so I think there's 3 things that we should be addressing right now or evaluating. So one is our business strategy, one is our business plan, and then I'm a big fan of the business model. And I think whatever resonates with you, I think you should take a look and evaluate this. So when we take a look at that business model, right now, I think all of us are, taking a look at how can I get more customers? How can I let people know that I'm open? Took some notes on some of the things that we talked about. And then also working remotely. And so when we take a look at our business model, one of the components of that is how do we manage our customer relationships? So all of us, I think, have a really good value proposition, or one that's consistent that we're able to offer. We've identified our customer segments, but the key for all of us right now is understanding how I can improve my customer relationships. And I'll give you a quick example of that. We've been extremely successful with our Jax Bridges program, but about 4 years ago, I had talked about having a blended program where a portion of it was online and the rest of it was in person. But everyone at my organization, they kind of pushed back on it. And I couldn't get my staff to actually adopt it. So if you don't have the right people, it's hard to execute, even though you have a great strategy. So we couldn't do it, but we had, all of the infrastructure. And then, once we realized we weren't going to be able to have the in-person sessions, because we had the infrastructure in place, it took me maybe about a week to get the team on board. And we're actually serving more people with our online sessions than we were in person. And so if we were looking at this from a business strategy, and I'm sure the St. John's Chamber is going to have to do the same thing as us, we're going to have to reevaluate our business model and our revenue models as chambers of commerce. That's just something we're going to have to do, maybe not right now, but I would say in about 90 to 120 days, we'll have a better understanding of what the environment's like. My caution to everyone is, we still don't know what our work environment is going to be, 3 or 4 months from now. So we shouldn't change everything in our business. We should just look for stability right now until we know what the environment will be in the coming weeks and months. So one, we need to evaluate our plans, whether it's business strategy, business plan, or business model. And again, I'm a fan of the business model. And then I thought this would be a really cool slide to share with you guys, okay? So we need to evaluate our revenue drivers. So everyone's familiar with Uber. But when we think about Uber, we only think about ride sharing. But Uber actually makes money off of their platform. And so as we take a look at our businesses, what's the core thing that actually helps us make money? And then what are all the different areas that we're able to generate revenue? And it could be that, it started out that Uber, it was the ride sharing where they made the most money. But they have Uber Eats, they have Uber Air. Until a couple months ago, I didn't even know they had an Uber Freight. But they've diversified their revenue drivers. And so when one of those goes down, they're able to, focus in on a few other areas. And then, there are different buckets in terms of how they can generate money. So they could book a ride. They, get money from the drivers. They get commissions off of the Uber Eats. So these are things that you should probably look at for your own business model. Really evaluate, okay, how do we make money and what is it? Is it our product? Is it our platform? Is it my website? And so that's the second thing, evaluate our revenue drivers. The third thing, and as you can tell, I like really colorful and cool slides. So the third thing would be to evaluate our industry verticals. And what we mean by industry verticals is those are the areas where you're doing work. So in this particular slide, this company has about 11 or 12 different industries that they're doing business in. Now, most of us are not going to be very good at that. But if you look, this particular company, in terms of media, they have public sector and then life sciences. Those are their highest level industry verticals, and there might be one more. Let's see. Yeah. So when you take a look at these, the caution for us as small business owners, there's desired industry verticals, and then there's who's actually purchasing your product or service. So what this requires us to do, and all of us have time right now, is to go back through our books and data that we're using and capturing for customers that are spending with us. And we need to identify, how did this customer get to us? How did I convert them into a customer? And then what industry are they in? So if we were looking at this company, obviously we see the industry verticals where they're doing double digits, but they have two emerging with healthcare and IT. So if for some reason, and I saw a couple comments in the chat about not being able to go face-to-face and interact with their customers. So right now, this particular company, they probably should aim at doing a little bit more business in IT and a little bit more in healthcare. So the thing that I would advise for all of us is to evaluate the industry verticals that we're operating in, categorize them in terms of which ones are bringing in or driving the most revenue, and then which ones could be emerging. And then the fifth thing is, and I can't talk about this enough, we have to, as small business owners, we've got to protect our identity and we've got to protect our documents. And you know, I'm working on a couple different initiatives that I think will be really good for the small business owner. But when we think about our identity, so not just you know, our driver's license and our passport, but we have what's called your personally identifiable information. So that's called your PII or your PI. And basically what that means is, what personally identifiable information can I take to recreate you, right? So if I have your social security number, if I have the picture, I wouldn't do this, but any government issued identification, I can actually recreate you on the web. And what's dangerous about that right now is that so many people are applying for loans and the PPP. That creates a bit of a threat for the small business owner. So one of the things that we have to do a better job of is, on your side as a small business owner and entrepreneur, you've got to, you know, make sure you have good habits to protect your identity and protect your documents. And then on the other side, as resource providers, we've got to, you know, kind of improve the way that we handle your information. And I would say, especially over the next 3 or 4 months, this is going to be the biggest threat to the small business and entrepreneurial community, is protecting your data. And so what I would like to do is, I'm just going to go back over these briefly so we have a few talking points. So one, we need to protect our identity and our documents. We need to evaluate our industry verticals, both desire and performance. We need to evaluate our revenue drivers. And then we need to evaluate our plans. And so what I would like to do now is, if we can go into the chat, and of those 5 slides that I showed, which one of those is the most important to you? And I actually looked through so I can call on a few people too. All right, so we have verticals. David is saying verticals. Raghu, how about you? That's a cool thing about this. Like you can look at the list of people. Joe Lemire also. All right, so Isabel set the model. And this is important because, you know, as we take a look at the different things that securing your data, and I knew Joe would say that one. And, you know, I actually applied for a grant recently that I think if we can get it, you know, I'm definitely going to come to the St. John's Chamber and, you know, offer some of the same services that we'll have at the Jax Chamber. Revenue drivers and identity safeguarding, business model and securing data. Isabel said yes and did a backflip. All right. Focus on the mission. Business model. Stephen, for you, which one of those would you say is
well, I
most
think you brought up a really good point about data, about security, because a lot of people, a lot of business owners that are used to working in a secure environment in their offices, now they're operating out of their home, off their laptops and that kind of stuff. And so there's this, it's called a VPN, virtual private network, I believe is what it stands for. I'm not an IT guy, but I do, and there's plenty of excellent resources in the St. John's Chamber for IT that can help you set up a VPN. And actually, I think you can subscribe to them, and you can set up a VPN for your home, and use that as a way of encrypting your data and as you're doing business, you know, from your home internet.
Okay, so I have 1 minute left before we open up for questions for you guys. So Isabel, I'm going to go back over the slides quickly. Okay, there we go.
Also, I'm going to go ahead and drop in. Well, no, go ahead.
Okay, so it's evaluate plans, evaluate our revenue drivers, evaluate our industry verticals, and protect our identity. Is that 4? 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's only 4. Okay, and again, I'll make sure that I get these slides to you all.
Okay. And I just dropped in the link to that scan that you can run on your company. And like I said, it's free. All you got to do is just type in the name of your business, the address, and the phone number. Now, what you need to make sure you do is type it in exactly the way your Google My Business page has it, because that's the information that the data ecosystem trusts the most, is what you say about your business in your Google My Business listing. Okay, so
now we're gonna actually open it up for questions, and we'll answer as many as possible. In fact, we have a list of them, and we've addressed some of them already. Before we do that, I want to share a couple things from more of a government perspective. So two items that each of us as business owners should have applied for or be evaluating right now. The first one is what's the formal name of it, Stephen? The link I gave you yesterday, the Florida Bridge
loan. Yeah, it's the bridge loan.
For the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a low cost.
Yeah, I can find the link that you sent me that has both of those in it and put them and post them in there. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me find that.
All right. So we want to make sure that we provide that link for them. Everyone should be applying for the PPP, and we can get information to you on that. And then at the Jacks Chamber, we have a total site dedicated to, as a trusted source, updated information about what's going on in the region related to the coronavirus. So I want to make sure my light just went out.
Okay, I just
Okay.
I dropped that link for the SBDC.
Okay, so my power just went out, so you guys are only going to see a silhouette from here. So that's one thing that we want to make sure we get to you. And then the other thing is, the CARES.
Here's the link. I just dropped in the link that you sent me, Carlton, with the chamber resources, the Jacks Chamber resources. So
yes,
everybody will have that as well.
Okay. So I don't think anyone can see me because my power went out, but I'm on the phone.
Isabel just dropped in a link for the St. John's Chamber. Thank you, Isabel.
Okay. All right. And so the other thing is, in speaking with the SBA, they've had a lot of issues with distribution of resources, but they expect all of those things to start to move a little bit faster starting on Wednesday. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
All right. So we can take questions. Stephen, you'll have to read them to me because I'm at a power loss right now.
Okay. Diana asked, this is a question to you. She said, I saw ViStar has a city-backed loan program for Duval businesses. Do you know if something similar will be offered in St. John's?
What I would say to that is, one, I can check on that for you because I'm in regular contact with the leadership at ViStar. I will check on that for you. And can you just make sure I get her name and contact information so I can respond to her?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now this one says, we don't have this RFLE, it doesn't say a name, so I'm not sure who it is, but it says, we don't have employees, and all the info that's being posted about PPP is the employee support programs. Our business is so new, we can't get the loans, for instance, through our ViStar bank, as we need to be in business for 1 year. Anyone else have information or requests such as ours? Okay. Actually, I'm kind of in the same boat, a little bit, but not. My business has been in business for almost 5 years, but what I was going to say is, they said as long as your business was in business before, I want to say March 9th, is the date that they had put.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like Isabel said, that there's a PPP webinar at noon that this person should definitely attend, that will be able to answer all those type of questions. Carlton and I, this is way out of our wheelhouse of expertise. I know Carlton's been on a lot of meetings dealing with this, but yeah, I can't really speak at all to this.
Well, so Stephen, you're actually correct. So as long as they were in business prior to that date, there's still an opportunity that they may be able to secure funds.
Absolutely.
The best one for them to go for would be the Florida Bridge Loan. That's actually evaluated by participants from the SBDCs. So, and if you have at least If there's more than one of you,
You have to have 2 employees,
then
minimum of 2 employees.
yeah, then you have an opportunity. So there's no harm in actually applying. So I would recommend, everyone should apply for that bridge loan. And I'm back. Okay. More questions. We're here for you guys.
Well, there's a question on here. Well, there was a couple of them that were kind of directed towards the presentation that I did. And David had asked, what if you've never created a Google My Business account? You got to. If you're a business, no, it doesn't matter if you're not a brick or mortar. If you don't have, even if you're work out of your house, you can still create a Google My Business page that has all the information about your business. And what you would do is instead of you can basically show the territory that you service instead of your actual address. You don't want your home address showing up as your place of business. So what you would do, there's a way of selecting a territory. So you could say Jacksonville or Florida or even the country if you work nationally. But you have to, if you are online and you have a website, you need a Google My Business page to link to it. And there was another question that I saw about if you have multiple locations. You should have a Google My Business page for each location. Like say you have a headquarters and then you have different other locations. Every one of them needs to have its own separate Google My Business page. Okay, and then because Google will know that it's you're all part of like either a franchise or have multiple locations. They understand that, but that's the way that you would handle that. And then what else? You're muted, Carlton. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Okay. So there's a question for you in the chat, Stephen, about serving nationwide.
Yeah, it's best to have Google My Business as a national presence or for separate locations. It's kind of on a case-by-case basis. It really depends on what type of business that you provide. But typically, if you have different locations that different offices, you would want to have a Google My Business page for each one, each physical location. And the reason why I say that is because when it comes to the data ecosystem, what's going to happen is when they look at your company, they're going to see inconsistencies because they're going to see different addresses. And if they only have one Google My Business page for your headquarters, they're going to think that it's duplicate data, and they'll count it as an error. Okay, so by having separate Google My Business page for each location, you kind of tease that out, and all these knowledge graphs know that these are separate locations of the whole entity, if that makes sense. I'm happy if you want to reach out to me by email or give me a call on my cell. I'll put my cell in here, and y'all can give me a call, and I'd be happy to explain anything that you guys would need.
Okay. More questions? Another one for you, Stephen.
Okay. All right, I just put my cell in there. When we set up our business, we created a Google account page, and it continues to point to our corporate page. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. Like I said, my cell's in there. If you guys want to talk to me offline, after this, just give me a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. So let's see. How many people do we have on?
Well, we only have a
8.
couple of minutes left, so we need to. I think Andrea's needs to wrap it up and give us.
Okay. So while she's wrapping up, if we could have you as participants to go in the chat and just tell us 2 things that you'll do differently as a result of sharing time with us this morning.
Yeah.
And then while you're doing
email.
that,
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. That my email is just digitalmarkco.com. That advisors.com isn't a part of my email address. I just didn't want there to be any confusion. It's just Stephen@digitalmarkco.com is my email address. And I dropped in my cell phone. So you're welcome to give me a call directly if you'd like. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
all right. So while they're posting, Andrea, we're going to turn it back over to you.
Chamber members, thank you so much.
It's not advisors.com. It's just digitalmarkco.com. That's all. Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's all right. There we go.
There we go.
Having technical difficulties this morning.
No worries.
Make sure you have the right information. But folks, thank you so much for coming. We greatly appreciate your time. And we also wanted to let you know that we do have a webinar this afternoon at noon. And so I will be sending out an email so that you guys will be able to register, and that will go into more questions about some of the PPE questions, PPP, my apologies, that were inquired. And Carlton and Stephen, I definitely want to reach out and thank you very much for taking the time to
It was our pleasure.
And
Yep.
you know, I know this is our first virtual networking webinar, so we greatly appreciate it and look forward to many more.
And Andrea, I think you did record this, right? Yeah. Well, I see the recording, so you'll be able to, if there's anything on there that you want to go back and review. Carlton put out some amazing stuff. Go back and review it. I think they're going to be putting out a link to it, and you can, if anybody else that you know missed it that wanted to be on it, make sure they get that link to watch it. There's a lot of good information. So.
Did we miss out on the coffee and donuts? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah. Next time.
Next time. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Happy Easter, everybody. So we're out? Okay.